So today we're going to be talking about 4 key nutrients for reversing Hashimoto's. So your thyroid cells rely on 4 key vitamins and minerals in order to produce your thyroid hormone. And then it's not just about producing the thyroid hormone, it's about then converting it from the storage form into the active form. I talk about the gas-free T3 and the brake-reverse T3, and then the storage form of T4. So we want to get everything into that gas, and so we need nutrients to do that, as well as then get it into the cell where the thyroid hormone actually does its job. It attaches to receptors and gives us energy and vitality. So many of the people that I see with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's really don't have the key nutrients that they need for their thyroid to work properly. In fact, in my book, The Thyroid Connection, I talk all about this, about how the #1 factor that I see for people with low thyroid and Hashimoto's is that they just don't even have the key nutrients that they need in order to make their thyroid hormone, convert their thyroid hormone, and get it into the cell where it does its job. So, of course, my book, The Thyroid Connection, has a 28-day plan that is rich in foods packed with these nutrients that help our thyroid do what it needs to do. So, let's talk about the 4 essential nutrients to support your thyroid. So, our thyroid hormone is made up of iodine. It's actually iodine molecules bound together that creates our thyroid hormone. So as you can imagine, iodine is absolutely crucial for anybody, particularly if you have a thyroid problem. Now, even if you don't have thyroid issues, iodine is essential. It helps us make our thyroid hormone. And I believe that most people out there right now in the world are, particularly in the United States, iodine deficient. And that is because we are not eating, the diet that we used to eat. It was filled with iodine. And on top of it, our world is filled with chlorine, fluoride, and bromide. These are what are called other halides or halogens. Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of water. And chloride, fluoride, and bromide are very similar to iodine. So our body, as we're absorbing chlorine, fluorine, and bromine, absorb it and can mistake it essentially for iodine, or it can get absorbed wherever iodine is getting absorbed and then displaces iodine. So many people are already coming into the situation iodine deficient because they're not eating the amount of iodine that they used to eat. And then we are now being bombarded with the other halides or halogens, and they're displacing iodine in the body. So it's a double whammy. So we have fluoride in our water, in our drinking water, in our toothpaste. We have chloride or chlorine in our water. Bromide is in baked goods. It's also found in flame retardants. So it's in our mattresses and our chairs and even children's clothing. So we're being exposed to a lot more of chemicals that displace iodine in the body. And then, of course, we're not eating lots of seaweed and saltwater fish like we used to. So iodine is essential to just simply making the thyroid hormone. And I believe that most people out there are very deficient in iodine, both deficient literally because they're low, and then subsequently deficient because of all of the other halides that are displacing it. And then, of course, selenium. So selenium, likely if you have a thyroid issue, you've heard about selenium, and it's important in thyroid health. So selenium helps us convert T4, which is the storage form of the hormone, into T3. And free T3 is the most active form of the thyroid hormone. And there's studies out there showing that Hashimoto's patients taking 200 micrograms of selenium were able to reduce their thyroid antibodies by 64%. Now, that's pretty incredible in and of itself, just adding in 200 micrograms of selenium. Now, you can get selenium from your diet. Brazil nuts is probably the one that most people are familiar with. Now, I don't recommend eating a lot of nuts based on my program that nuts can be irritating to the gut. But one of the other downsides of Brazil nuts is that they don't all contain an equal amount of selenium, so you don't know how much you're getting. And if you're like me, once you start eating one Brazil nut, you want to eat 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. and then suddenly you might be getting overdosed on selenium. It's also found in meat, fish products, and shellfish. So selenium is very, very vital to the thyroid, both not only in helping to decrease TPO or thyroid antibodies, but also in helping make that conversion from the storage form to the free form that goes into all of our cells and all of our receptors. Zinc is another nutrient that is very crucial for those of us with thyroid dysfunction. It also helps to convert from that storage T4 into the active T3. So zinc, as we all know, is also used to help balance the immune system. And most people who have thyroid dysfunction have autoimmunity, as 90% of all low thyroid is actually Hashimoto's, or the autoimmune form of thyroid. Now, zinc can be found in a lot of different things. Oysters is one of the biggest, but oysters can be pretty nasty and yicky to taste. And that's from a girl growing up in Louisiana and spending her summers on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. But oysters are dirty, dirty little things to be eating. They're called bottom feeders, and they just eat up all the ick. So I don't recommend that you eat oysters. However, they are high in zinc. Beef also contains zinc as well. And then iron is very important for the thyroid. It helps to convert iodide into iodine so that your thyroid can actually use it to produce the hormone. And it's also used in the conversion of that storage T4 into the active free T3. And iron, I have found virtually every female in my clinic, particularly a menstruating female, to be low in iron. So I do think that most people, particularly women, menstruating women, typically need iron. And we need iron in the storage form of ferritin to help also with that conversion of T4 to T3. Now, you can find iron, of course, in beef, chicken liver. We mentioned oysters earlier, mussels, clams. They're a little cleaner than oysters. And, of course, spinach. Now, I want to talk to you about why food alone isn't enough. Our soil has been depleted. We don't have the same food supply that we used to have, that our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents ate. Our nutrients in the soil have been depleted, so therefore our nutrients in our food supply are being depleted. And then, of course, we're battling large amounts of environmental toxins that we've never had to encounter before, from pesticides to chemicals in the air. We have leaky guts because we're eating processed diets, we're eating GMOs, we're eating gluten. So we have leaky guts. Many people have infections in their gut. We're eating nutrients that are already more depleted, the soil, than our ancestors had. We're battling more toxins than ever, and we're stressed. Everybody's stressed out there. So all of these things combined is really creating a situation in which we are not able to absorb the nutrients that we are getting, and we are getting less nutrients either by, if you are eating a good wholesome diet, just the soil is depleted, so your broccoli that you're eating doesn't have the same amount of nutrients as the broccoli that your grandmother ate. And then, of course, if you're eating packaged foods or processed foods, you're getting even lower amounts of nutrients because you're not even eating. You're typically eating something that either is nutrient devoid, or they've gone back in and added nutrients back into the product, which means in most cases that they're synthetic. So it's really why I recommend that everybody, virtually everybody, take a high quality multivitamin, from children to teenagers to adults to even the elderly can benefit in most cases from taking a high quality multivitamin. So I searched and searched around for a high quality multivitamin, one that I could really believe in, one I could stand behind and put my name on, and one that really helped people who had thyroid dysfunction. And I couldn't find one. I mean, finding one that did have iodine, I know people are asking about that, and there's a large controversy, and I'll get into that in a minute, but also had that 200 micrograms of selenium, also had, the proper amounts of zinc and magnesium and manganese and calcium and all of the B vitamins, and having them in a pre-methylated form so that you can absorb it better, and vitamin A and vitamin C and everything that you need for optimal health and optimal thyroid function. I couldn't find it. So I decided to formulate my own. And when I wrote the Thyroid Connection, and it's the multivitamin that I talk about in the Thyroid Connection, after I wrote the autoimmune solution, there was a lot of feedback from people. They were feeling overwhelmed by the amount of supplements and they didn't know what to do. And so when I wrote the thyroid connection, I said, I'm going to make this easier on people. I'm going to go ahead and just like have one-stop shopping to the best of my ability in the multivitamin. Sometimes people say, well, how come you don't have more magnesium, or how come you don't have more calcium? Honestly, I wanted to add more into this multivitamin. However, it was moving up to 10 pills a day. And so I finally said, no, I can't do that. So it is 6 pills, but they're, let me show you, they're capsules. And so they're easily digestible. One, you're not going to have difficulty swallowing them. They go down. You can even break them open. Some people ask, can they put them in their smoothie? Can they put a multivitamin in their smoothie? You can break them open, put them in yogurt, or something if you want to for your child. Of course, you would want to lower the dose if you were doing that for a child, or if you have any digestive issues or you just don't want to swallow pills, you can put it in your smoothie or something like that as well. So it is formulated with 300 micrograms of iodine, 200 micrograms of selenium, like we mentioned, that helps with the Hashimoto's or TPO antibodies, 25 milligrams of zinc. And since everybody doesn't need iron, we decided to leave iron out of the formula, and you can take a separate iron. But it also does, as I mentioned, it includes vitamin D, magnesium, calcium, pre-methylated B vitamins if you have any mutations of MTHFR, vitamin A, vitamin C for immune function, vitamin D for immune function. So they're in the most absorbable and bioavailable forms. Now, let me just very quickly mention about iodine, because I'm getting a lot of questions about that. And I did choose to put iodine in the multivitamin. In fact, I was recently speaking at the Institute for Functional Medicine, their annual conference on about thyroid health, and definitely lots of controversy surrounding iodine. However, many people are using very large dosages, like 25 milligrams or 25 or 50 milligrams. And those are 1,000-fold what I'm recommending. I already mentioned that I believe that most everybody out there is iodine deficient because we're not eating iodine like we used to. And then we have high amounts of bromide, chloride, and fluoride displacing iodine in our body. So the amounts that I'm recommending in the multi are really what you would just normally be getting from your diet. So it's not an excess, it's just the normal amounts that you'd be getting from your diet. So I can't speak to anybody individually. However, for the vast majority of people that I've seen in my clinic or that have taken the multi, we really haven't gotten feedback from anybody who's dealing with Graves or Hashimoto's that's had any type of reaction to those small amounts of iodine. It's about balance. It's like Goldilocks. You don't want the porridge too hot and you don't want the porridge too cold. So you don't want no iodine and you don't want too much iodine. You want just the right amount. So I feel like that's what we have in the multi.